The following clip is from a previously recorded episode of the Cherish Each Moment podcast.
Did you watch the Super Bowl? I'm not much into pro football, but I do watch the Super Bowl. And this year, the Super Bowl, if you didn't know, was played in Los Angeles, California at SoFi Stadium. And I would still classify this as a relatively brand new stadium. It opened in 2020, and it's the home of both the Chargers and the Rams. Two NFL teams call this place home. The playing surface at SoFi is artificial turf, and it was a topic of conversation that found its way into my Twitter feed during the Super Bowl game, particularly after Odell Beckham Jr. was injured. After the injury occurred, I saw a tweet by Dan Francis. I looked him up. He's a golf course superintendent out of Ohio. And the tweet simply said, "Plastic grass." In the response thread of that tweet, S. Smith, looked him up too, another golf guy. He said, quote, "Someday they'll realize the cost of maintaining natural turf for football in any environment is a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of a superstar's knee." This is definitely an interesting addition to the conversations about comparing the pros and cons between natural and artificial turf. I've kind of touched on this before on the show, and I thought this was a really nice addition to that conversation. So I was curious to know if there has been any study done around player injuries and if there is any significant data that suggests that injuries occur more regularly on artificial playing surfaces compared to natural surfaces. And I found a really interesting article from the NFL Players Association website that was written by J.C. Tretter, who plays for the Cleveland Browns. The article is called "Only Natural Grass Can Level the NFL's Playing Field." Got my attention. So I read it, and I want to share a little bit of it with you too. Here's an excerpt from the article. It starts like this. "As a rookie learning the ins and outs of being a professional football player, I remember the collective groan that my older teammates made whenever it was announced that we'd be practicing indoors on artificial turf instead of the usual outdoor grass field. I played almost exclusively on synthetic turf in college. Once I started experiencing both surfaces interchangeably, I began to understand exactly why my teammates disliked the practices on turf. Whenever I practiced on an artificial field surface, my joints felt noticeably stiffer the next day. The unforgiving nature of artificial turf compounds the grind on the body we already bear from playing a contact sport." First, a bit of physics. Professional football players put extremely high levels of force and rotation onto the playing surface. Grass will eventually give, which often releases the cleat prior to reaching an injurious load. On synthetic surfaces, there is less give, meaning our feet, ankles, and knees absorb the force, which makes injury more likely to follow. The data suggests the anecdotes you'll hear from me and other players. Artificial turf is significantly harder on the body than grass. Based on NFL injury data collected from 2012 to 2018, not only was the contact injury rate for lower extremities higher during practices and games held on artificial turf, NFL players consistently experienced a much higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries on turf compared to natural surfaces. Specifically, players have a 28% higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries when playing on artificial turf. Of those non-contact injuries, players have a 32% higher rate of non-contact knee injuries on turf and a staggering 69% higher rate of non-contact foot and ankle injuries on turf compared to grass. Earlier this year, the NFL and the NFLPA tasked artificial turf manufacturers with developing a surface like natural grass that meets the specifications developed by our respective engineering experts. We also challenged cleat manufacturers to design innovative footwear that is safer and tailored to both players' needs and to specific surfaces. There is no guarantee that artificial turf manufacturers will be able to create a product that provides as safe of a surface as natural grass, so we should not sit around hoping that happens. Until a product is developed that satisfies engineering specifications, we must take steps to protect players from unsafe field surfaces. In short, NFL clubs should proactively change all field surfaces to natural grass. The data is clear, so everyone involved with our sport should be similarly motivated to make this switch. For players, we can be stronger advocates for ourselves by continuing to demand safer standards. For coaches and general managers, building a successful team is much easier with a healthy roster. For NFL owners, any decision shown to protect their most important investments, the players, should be a no-brainer. Climate and weather are not barriers to natural grass or to natural practice or game fields. Cold climate teams like the Packers, Steelers, and the Browns successfully maintain natural grass fields. Indoor stadiums shouldn't be a barrier for grass fields either. The Cardinals and Raiders have figured out how to provide a natural grass playing surface indoors. Agronomically, natural grass field surfaces are possible everywhere. And that's the end of the excerpt from that article. This is a great article. I thought that was a great read. It's obvious that JC has done his research and isn't just going on personal experience, which is just as valuable. I agree with him, and I support him 100% on this, and I'm sure many others in the grass community do as well. And he mentioned that there's several teams that maintain natural grass fields that are in really cold climates up north. And he also mentioned that there's a couple teams that have natural grass fields in indoor stadiums. And those are really cool. If you haven't seen that, there's a really great video on YouTube about Lambeau Field where the Packers play and how they maintain their field and how they maintain it during the cold months. There's been plenty of games played in the snow there, in dense snow, and they still have that field ready to go and ready to handle that. They actually have a heating system beneath the surface of the turf. It's incredible. And then you've got these other stadiums that are indoor fields, but they grow the grass outside. The whole field can be moved outside and inside for the game. So they'll whenever it's not a game day, that field is outdoors. And it's on a big system with wheels and everything. It's all motor powered. It's awesome. There's stuff on YouTube about that. I'm sure if you just do a Google search for the Las Vegas Raiders Allegiant Stadium football field, you'll find it. Same thing with the Packers and their field. There's really great material out there. Obviously, there's a cost savings associated with artificial turf as far as maintenance is concerned. But if it doesn't outweigh the cost of injuries that occur on those playing surfaces, it should really be worth considering going back to natural turf surfaces again. So I thought that was a great article and a really good addition to our conversation here. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of experiments going on out there with trying to save money, but at what cost?